Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to the United Stand. This is your latest Manchester United transfer news. Lots to get into. Thanks everyone who stuck by us. I know we had a few issues with the first stream, but I think we've ironed those issues out. And what we'll be talking about tonight, well, I've got a couple of updates for you, but effectively, this is going to be a £120 million builder for Manchester United. We're going to look at how Erik ten Hag can build this team this summer with £120 million. I'm then going to show you how I would do it with your help, and then we're going to look at why we should be looking to spend in excess of £150 million this summer, because the difference I think is going to be quite eye-opening. So we've been wanting to do this for a while. We were going to use a load of stuff that Drawty'd done, but unfortunately we had internet problems, so we're live now. Hope everyone's doing well. But before we get into that, because I think that's going to be very interesting, but before we get into that, what I want to talk about is just a couple of topical things to talk about. The first one is Frenkie de Jong. You may well have seen that Fabrizio Romano tweeted earlier on this evening that effectively there's going to be expected to be another bid going in from Manchester United. Another bid is not correct. We've never put a bid in. We put a proposal forward that was not back. So a bid is meant to go in this week. We spoke about this morning. We said this week will be the week where Manchester United do something, and I think that's going to be very, very obvious that does happen. So yeah, I'm very much expecting that to happen this week. And also, I think that we said it. I think we said it on the thumbnail this morning, didn't we? We said this week. So I fully expect it to happen this week. I think that United have got to start moving things forward. We're back in training a week tomorrow. Frenkie de Jong wouldn't be back in training a week tomorrow because he's played internationals. It'd be 2 weeks tomorrow for him. But we've got to start moving it forward. Barcelona want to start buying players. They want to sell. We want to buy. And also, we've got many reasons why it needs to happen this week. And some people feel it's because there's a dividend going out of the club at the end of the week as well. So United will want to move things forward. And I think that Frenkie de Jong will move forward at some point over the next 5 days quite largely. That's not really a word, is it? The second thing I want to talk to you about is Timber. I know this morning I basically said I'm 90% sure that we'll get Frenkie de Jong now, up from 75%. Feels like a chart show. I did talk about this Timber story and said, do we need to redress that? Because I've always been 80%. Actually, you know what? I'm not going to, because if I go and say, well, you know, the deal's dead in the water, so I'm going to drop down from 80%, and then we still sign him, it makes it look like the information I had weeks ago doesn't mean anything. I still think that Erik ten Hag, well, I know Erik ten Hag wants him. I know that he'd agreed personal terms, and I know the issue was Ajax and a fee, and then he's gone on international duty, and then he's gone on holiday. But he did say before international duty that he was going to make his mind up on holiday. So I'm not going to move from 80% on Timber. I'm still going to stay there. I understand people why they might be moving away, but you know, and maybe I'm being a bit stubborn there, but I'm still going to stay where I was with that. I'm not actually going to drop down from 80%, so let's wait and see on that. And yeah, we're doing all right for transfer news this window, actually. I mean, I don't know whether anybody saw me on Twitter, but I did say about 3 weeks ago that I'd been told that Sterling was going to go to Chelsea, and now it's coming out. So we're doing all right. We're getting some good bits of info this summer, so I'm looking forward to it. Anyway, let's fly into the show. I want to interact with you on this one. So effectively, we believe Manchester United's transfer budget is £120 million this summer. Now, I'm going to show you why it needs to be bigger, and I think you're all going to agree with that. It's equally worrying that we haven't got rid of the dross. Not enough are talking about this. Love the content, Mark, says Jeffrey. I agree with that. So, I think all Tom's at 20% here for Timber. I want to get interactive, but first things first, we're going to work with a budget of 120 million. And then, when we've done that, we're going to work with a budget of 150 and a budget of 200. And we're going to show why United need to have a bigger budget, but also why it's going to be really difficult. Now, if the budget's 120 million and we don't get rid of the dross, the budget's 120 million. That's what we've got to spend. We're going to, first of all, get it into our head what Erik ten Hag can do and will do with 120 million quid, and how worrying it is. Even though 120 million pounds to a Bournemouth or a Forest or a Norwich or a Fulham would be massive. So, whatever transfer situation you're trying to predict this summer, the most obvious one is Frenkie de Jong and somewhere between 60 and 70 million quid. We're going to say 70 million quid. De Jong, 70 million quid. That's 70 million quid of your budget gone straight away. And can I just say as well, I get tired of having to tell people that they're wrong. You know, remember a few weeks ago when somebody thought Erik ten Hag was getting on and it wasn't somebody, it was a few people were going, Ten Hag's on a plane to Portugal to try and get Darwin Núñez. I mean, it sounds like a comedy sketch, but fans did believe it. And I was saying, he ain't on a plane to Portugal because he's on holiday. He's not even in Manchester to go from Manchester to Portugal. And again, we've had people going, yeah, well, we're going to get Frenkie de Jong for 250 grand a week. We're not. We're going to spend £300,000 a week at least on him. And what people don't realise about Frenkie de Jong, a few people say, why is Frenkie de Jong not going to PSG, or why is he not going to Man City, or why is he not going to Bayern Munich? If you've not figured that one out, then you haven't figured out, and I'll tell you, wages. Bayern Munich can't afford to give Frenkie de Jong £300,000 a week when they've got Gravenberch and Kimmich and Goretzka and others. Man City don't want to be giving 300 grand a week to de Jong when he's not really a player that they want. And the same for PSG. So the wages is why. Man City can beat us to de Jong if they want to, but the bargain isn't there. You've got to pay a fair price for him, which is we're going to do, and you've got to pay him big wages. So United are getting this player because we're going to pay a fair price to Barcelona and we're going to give massive wages to de Jong. That is why no other club is coming in at the moment. That's why, quite rightly, United fans are saying, well, Man City could swoop in at any time, or PSG could swoop in at any time. And the reality is they're not going to swoop in at any time as things stand, because they're not going to get a bargain. If he was a free transfer or something, maybe they would, but they're not going to get a bargain. You're going to have to spend 70 million quid on him, and you're going to have to give him 300 grand a week. And he's not really the player that they're looking at to pay top dollar. So that's why. If our budget is 150 million and we agree a deal with, say, 40 million up front and 15 million add-ons, would our remaining budget be 110 or 95, says Kevin Phillips. Good point. Isn't Frenkie de Jong a Pogba replacement? So even if we sign him, we haven't really started to rebuild. We're replacing, not rebuilding, says Jake. I think you're always replacing, though, aren't you? Hi, Mark. When's the Speedo calendar coming out? And any news on... I don't know what that's all about. It's C. I don't know what you're talking about there. Okay, so, look, let's get into this. And my internet has just dropped. Oh, God. I tell you what, don't use Virgin Internet. They are fucking rubbish. I mean, this is 2 weeks ago this happened. And I phoned them up and I said, look, I need it for work. And it's happened 2 weeks on a Sunday and 2 weeks on a Sunday again. It's just ridiculous. We're dropping in and out. Frankie is worth 300k. We have Sancho on 350k a week when he was on 100 a week at Dortmund. That was stupid. This is different, says Nate H. Well, that's your opinion, Nate. Of course it is. Well, apparently I did stay live. I'm still here. It's fine. That's good. Well, I still think that Virgin Media is crap. I'll be having a chat with them tomorrow. But yeah, I don't want it to drop because I don't want it to drop because I want this to keep going. So we're still here. So 120 million pound budget, 70 million on Frenkie de Jong. This is how I think Ten Hag spends 120 million. Get in the chat if you disagree. So he's got 120 million. He spends 70 million on Frenkie de Jong. I think we all know that's going to happen. Eriksen for free. I'm not saying he's going to get him, but I think Eriksen for free is a player that Erik ten Hag likes, but he's also free, and he knows he needs to bring players in. I don't think Erik ten Hag would bring in Christian Eriksen if he had £200 million to spend. I think he's bringing him in because he's free. So I would say Erik ten Hag's plan is Frenkie de Jong, Christian Eriksen, still only spent 70 million quid because Eriksen's free, and then he's got 50 million pounds left to spend. I think Timber for 35 million takes him up to 105 million, which means he's got 15 million pounds left. And then I think he's in trouble because, as I say, you spend 70 on de Jong, you spend 35 on Timber, and you've got 105 million spend with 15 million pounds left. I think what he'd like to do is then bring Anthony in, but that takes him up to 155 million. Maybe he looks at Malacia as a fullback, which takes him about 120 million, but then effectively he's bought a midfielder, a centre-back, a left-back and an attacking midfielder. He's got no attacking left-footed right winger, and he's got no centre-forward. So maybe we're going to bring this lad in from Derby, but he's not really ready either. And I think what what happens very quickly is if your budget's 120 million and you buy Frankie de Jong, you're in trouble, because you've basically got one more signing. Now, you could buy Frankie de Jong for 70 million and you could buy Anthony for 50 million and that's your budget gone. But you haven't got a centre-back, you haven't got a second midfielder. So I think that what we do need to get our head around is if the budget is £120 million, we're not having the window we need to have. We will get Frankie de Jong and we will get one other signing, but that will be it. It will be gone. And people keep saying, I keep seeing United fans going, I think we're going to get Anthony, a centre-back, and Frankie de Jong and Eriksen. Okay, you're going to need £160 million to do that. Even if we didn't get Timber and we went and got Pau Torres, 50 million quid, plus 70 million is 120 million, your budget's gone. If you want Anthony as well, that's another 50, that's 170 million quid. Where's this money coming from? So I think we've got to be, not realistic, but I think we've got to understand the situation. If that budget's £120 million, we're really struggling to do anything beyond De Jong and one other signing, which is nowhere near enough for what we need. Mark, since Pogba, Mata, Matic and Lingard has left, how much have we saved in wages so far? I'm considering going with EE, says Slow Sports News. Yeah, I'm thinking of trying EE as well. You need to get Starlink satellite internet, says Anil. It won't be £120 million, says H. Well, look, stick with the show, mate, or start watching it at the start and you'll understand what we're doing here. We're going to do, because it's Sunday night, and I think next week's going to be a big week in relation to De Jong and others, this is a real opportunity to sit here as a community and work through different budget situations and scenarios. There's been a lot of talk of a £120 million budget. If we've got a £120 million budget, and somebody just said there 15 million for Rabiot, maybe there, I mean, that's not a bad idea from Mohammed. This is what I want to see. If we did have a £120 million budget, and we'll look at bigger ones in a minute, De Jong, 70, Timber, 35, 105, Rabiot, 15, 120 million pounds. Two midfielders have sent Eriksen in. You spent 120 million pounds. Well done. There's no attacker in that scenario. There's no fullback in that scenario. So if that budget is 120 million, it's a very difficult budget to work to when you spend 70 million pounds on one player. So I'm going to say we should keep Garner good understudy for De Jong, says AS. And my dream transfer window, Malacia, Spence, Sanchez, Sangari and Timber, says Emperor. Which would be free for Renato Sanchez. Sangari would be about 30. Timber would be 35, 65. Malacia would be about 20, 85. Spence, you've only spent about 100 million there, Emperor. And that's the thing, isn't it? We should keep Garner, said somebody there. That is the thing. So if I said to you, if the budget was 120 million, let's say that he buys Frankie de Jong, he gets Eriksen for free, and he buys a centre-back, and that's basically it. His budget's gone. It's fair to say, isn't it? It's basically gone. 70 on De Jong. I don't think that we can say that we ever were. I think my internet might have dropped now. It's gone down to red. I think it's gone completely now. It's ridiculous, isn't it? I mean, we sort of thrive on live content, and we've been doing live content for 7 years. I've never had a month like this. Where it's just kept dropping all the time. It's funny because Pieface, I don't know whether you know about him, on he does overnight streams, and it just keeps going down for him as well, and it's Virgin Media again. I'll be bringing up tomorrow and sorting something out, because it's dropping in and out, and it's just not acceptable. It's not acceptable at all. But this is, it's up and down like a yo-yo. I know it'll keep coming back and forward, but it's up and down like a bloody yo-yo. And it's difficult. I wouldn't mind it if I was just talking about different strategies and things, but we're trying to do a show about bloody, transfer budgets. So I reboot the router, mate. That's why I was a little bit late. We tried at 8 o'clock. It wasn't working at all. It's just dropped again. I rebooted the router again. It's like, I don't want to talk technicals, but it's like surges. It seems to surge. It's like for 30 seconds, it just drops. And then you run your internet speed test again, and it goes back up to like 40 download again. And then you run it, and it'll drop for about 20 seconds, and then it surges back up again. It's like it's intermittent. And this is something. It's done it again. I can see it. It's going, because on the streaming service I use, it's got a green light when it's fine, amber light, yellow light, red light, and it's just going up and down and up and down and up and down. but I'll be changing provider. Don't you worry about that. Yeah, definitely, because there's just no point. And it only happens at night. I think they're doing work in the area. I think they are. It's unacceptable. Yeah, it is unacceptable, I'm afraid. Yeah, so Tom, I have 400 upload and 40 download as standard. I mean, I use it for work, so it's not. I don't log on to the neighbour's password. Like, we use it. We've been doing it for years, haven't we? So I do have good internet normally, but it does just drop out, and it's a pain in the arse. My 4G isn't good enough to use. I could hotspot off my phone, but where I am in the house, it's not good enough. If I was set up upstairs, I could do it, but yeah, it doesn't. Look, I'm going to stick with it anyway. I'm waiting for it to stabilise a little bit. But yeah, it's just, and the minute I say I'm going to stick with it, it drops red again. Oh God, so annoying. De Jong for 70, Eriksen and Rafinha for 30, and then Timber for 30. I don't know what, Vincent. I don't mind working through scenarios, but what I don't like is people who. Slow Sports News is talking about EA. I'm going to get in contact with them. What I don't like is people who reinvent transfer fees, because there's no way Rafinha's going for 30. I mean, I could say, yeah, let's get De Jong for 20, Anthony for 20, Timber for 10. I've already spent 50 million. It's not realistic, is it? How would I spend 120 million pounds? I suppose I should just say that one very quickly. How I would spend 120 million. I think Ten Hag would spend 120 million by spending it on De Jong and a centre-back and Eriksen for free. How would I spend 120 million pounds? Honestly, I'd get Lema for 20. I would get Timber for 35, so that's 55. I would get Sangari for 30. So what have I spent there? Lema 20, Sangari 30, that's 50. 85 with Timber on top. It leaves me with another 35 million. So I've got two midfielders, a centre-back. I mean, for 35 million, I'm going to struggle a little bit, aren't I? What would I do with 35 million? I am going to struggle. I'm going to struggle. And that's the problem. I mean, I've got two midfielders I'm happy with, Lema and Sangari. I get Timber in. I've got 35 million left. Give me some help in the chat. I get a new Wi-Fi box, yes, Liam. I mean, you could try Asensio. It's not really a player I'm massively in. It's difficult to work with 120 million pounds. I mean, you could just get a fullback. Yeah, I'd get Spence. I was just trying to see if there was a way I could get an attacker or a right winger, but you're not going to get anybody good for 35 million. So I think if I had 120 million quid, I'd spend it different. I've got no problem with Ten Hag wanting to buy Frenkie de Jong, but I would spend it on Lema 20, Sangari 30, Timber 35, so 85, and then that leaves me with, I'd get a fullback. I'd probably get Spence in for that. So I'd get Spence, and I could still get Eriksen as well. So, I could get 5 players for 120 million. I could get Eriksen for free, Spence for 20 million, who's a right back, Timber, who's a centre. You do need quantity, so it's not a bad transfer window, really. And I don't think many people would disagree with that. Save it for January to address the gaps, says Brian McDonald. And Mark, if we are limited with what we bring in, do you see McTominay potentially being a make weight as a backup centre-back, then Donny and Frankie playing the 8s, then bringing in Anthony? There's your 120 million, says Oliver Hunt. Yeah, look, maybe. But it will just, so if you're watching, it will drop in and out. There's not a lot I can do. I'm just going to sort of battle on through and try and sort it out for the tomorrow's show. Ryan Kent from Rangers for 25 to 30. I mean, I am talking about players that we've loosely been linked to as well, Wayne. But that's how I'd spend 120 million pounds. I'm not the manager. You're not the manager, and the manager wants to buy Frenkie de Jong. So I think when you think about Richard Arnold and you think about John Murta and you think about Erik Ten Hag and you think about the summer ahead of us, the budget of 120 million pounds is never going to be enough, because 120 million pounds with De Jong involved means that 70 million pounds of it is spent, isn't it? So I think that at the end of the day, the best thing to do for Manchester United is to that budget needs to be about 170, which is what we've always said. You get De Jong in for 70 million quid. You then bring in a centre-back for about 40, which takes it up to 110, sorry. So De Jong for 70, centre-back for about 40, which takes it up to 110. And then you go and get Anthony for 50, and that's 160 million. So I think we need to spend about 170 million pounds. And to do that, you would have Anthony, De Jong, and a centre-back, and maybe Eriksen as well. And I think that's probably the way to do it, isn't it? But I agree with George Kyle that the budget really needs to be £200 million, because De Jong 70, centre back, Timber or Torres for about 40, that's 110. Anthony for 50, that's 160. Eriksen for 3, and then a full back for about 20 million. I mean, you don't get a second midfielder in that situation, though, do you? And that's the scary thing. Reports are saying Arsenal has 215 million this transfer window, excluding outgoing transfers, building a very young team. United need to clear out, says Nelly. Thank you very much for the super chat there, Nelly. PSG signed Vitina so fast, and we can't even sign one player. Even Barca are going to get 4 players for free, and we're getting played by Barca.